"Lads, you're wanted. Go and help," said the poster on the railway carriage wall, and I thought of the hands that penned the call. Fat civilians wishing they could go out and fight the Hun. Can't you see them thanking God that they're over 41? Girls with feathers, vulgar songs, washy verse on England's need. God, don't we damn well know it, how the message ought to read? Lads, you're wanted over there. Shiver in the morning dew. More poor devils like yourselves, waiting to be killed by you. Go and help to swell the names on the casualty lists. Help to make a column stuff for the blasted journalists. Help to keep them nice and safe from the wicked German foe. Don't let him come over here. Lads, you're wanted. Out you go. There's a better word than that, lads. And can't you hear it come from a million men that call you to share their martyrdom? Leave the harlot still to sing comic songs about the Hun. Leave the faddled men to say, now we've got them on the run. Better 20 honest years than their dull 70. Lads, you're wanted. Come and learn to live and die with honest men. Take your risk of life and death underneath the open sky. Live clean or go out quick. Lads, you're wanted. Come and die. In 1914, many farm workers would have been in the Territorial Army, and on the outbreak of war, signed on for overseas service. Those men in the Territorial Army from the northeast of Scotland were mostly Gordon Highlanders in the 51st Highland Division. Men who wanted to serve their country and who were not in the Territorial Army took the opportunity to volunteer, to answer Lord Kitchener's call, "Your king and country need you." Many volunteered because they lived in poverty. And volunteering gave them a chance of a different way of life. This was particularly true of farm labourers. 1 million men joined up before the end of 1914. The Battle of the Somme began on the 1st of July 1916 and would be the baptism of fire for most of these men. The British front line from that dreadful day may still be seen in this memorial park near the village of Beaumont Hamel. On the first day of the Battle of the Somme, there were 57,000 casualties, of whom 20,000 were killed or died from the wounds they sustained. By the time the Battle of the Somme petered out in mid-November 1916, the casualty list had risen to 450,000. 150,000 men had been killed or died from their wounds, and 100,000 were so badly wounded that they never fought in any capacity ever again. Many men who lie in the cemeteries like this were farm labourers. An abortive and ineffective halfway house called the Derby Scheme, which tried to entice men to enlist, was introduced in 1915 by Director General of Recruiting Lord Derby, when numbers of volunteers dropped away significantly. Mounting casualty lists soon began to act as a deterrent. The concept behind the Derby Scheme was that men who had voluntarily registered would be called upon for service only when necessary. Married men had an added incentive in that they were advised that they would be called up only once the supply of single men was exhausted. It didn't work, and in early 1916,
conscription was introduced, and young conscripts, many from rural communities, fought in the battles of 1917, Arras and Third Ypres. The latter will forever be associated with the name Passchendaele.
Squire nagged and bullied till I went to fight, under Lord Derby's scheme. I died in hell. They called it Passchendaele. My wound was slight, and I was hobbling back, and a shell burst slick upon the duckboard, and I fell into the bottomless mud and lost the light. At sermon time, when Squire is in his pew, he gives my gilded name a thoughtful stare, for though low down upon the list I'm there, in proud and glorious memory, that's my due. 2 bleeding years I fought in France for Squire, suffered hardships he never guessed, came home once on leave, and then went west. What greater glory could a man desire?